Hello, everybody. My name is Felix Dragon 457, and welcome to chapter 1.5, I guess. Maybe 1.5. I don't know if this is going to be a three-part thing, but I'm just not going to take any chances with YouTube because they won't upload a video. They won't upload a video that's too long, so I'm going to try to keep these videos 10 minutes or less. So if I need to make extra parts for the chapters, then so be it. But when we left off, we finished with the core systems era, and now we're going into the frontier era, 2292 to 2442. The atmosphere of this period is one of corporate feudalism. Tensions rise as competition for resources grows among the core system's powerful corporate entities. Freelance explorers are hired to find new sources of raw materials. These expeditions lead to the discovery of the frontier, a far-off zone of star systems containing an unusually dense number of habitable planets. Travel to the frontier exceeds the distance traversed in any previous human expedition by orders of magnitude. The trip requires an enormous investment in technology and personnel that only a handful of corporations can afford. As the galaxy's leading authority on interstellar exploration, the IMC orchestrates its most ambitious mission to date, deploying the fleets of pathfinding colony ships to establish routes to the frontier. This begins the new space race. During this period, many ships are lost to accidents, equipment failure, or unknown causes. However, some expeditions successfully make landfall and begin establishing the frontier's first outposts. Along with the new wave of expeditions comes a massive increase in the development of robotic AI. To assist the settlers in building their colonies, Hammond Robotics develops a series of semi-autonomous farming equipment based on antique military exoskeletons, described as glorified tractors in satirical news feeds of the times. They are better known today as Titans. That era ends and it goes into the new era, 2442 to 2671, the corporate wars and return to the frontier. As frontier exploration continues, the IMC's resources are divided between supporting its interests in the core systems and its new ventures into the frontier. This division of focus is seen as a weakness by its rival corporations, which launch a series of orchestrated attacks against the IMC that initiate the corporate wars. The IMC drastically scales back all investments into the frontier expeditions, leaving its colonists to their own devices. Over several generations of shifting intercorporate alliances and interplanetary wars, the IMC reasserts control over the core systems. The conflict yields significant leaps forward in technology derived from the aggressive development of the first combat titans. However, the IMC's victory comes at a cost to its planets and people. Years of warfare left the core system depleted of arable land and natural resources. There is yet again a strong demand for replenishment. To fulfill this demand, the IMC looks to its previously abandoned investment in the frontier. It envoys I'm getting tired. Its envoys discover that the descendants of the original IMC pioneers have prospered. Many more worlds have been colonized and all have access to a bounty of natural resources. The IMC asserts eminent domain over the frontier, citing its investments dating back 350 years. It sends military fleets to establish control of the region, builds new manufacturing and mining operations, and displaces thousands of frontier citizens in the process. The colonies reject an IMC's claim to their region, as industrial production continues apace. Diplomatic talks begin. when that era ends, beginning the Titan Wars, 2671 to 2692. After years of failed diplomacy, the citizens of the frontier established the earliest form of the frontier militia. This new resistance grows in numbers and begins retaking contested lands using Titans and other war material stolen from the IMC. The militia's many skirmishes with the IMC garrisons become the opening salvo of the Titan Wars. The IMC mobilizes hundreds of thousands of soldiers from the core systems to occupy the frontier, rooting out militia enclaves and bringing to bear lost numbers of state-of-the-art Titans. The Titan Wars strongly favored the IMC. The early militia's lack of unified leadership and antiquated military technology put it at a severe disadvantage. Within a few years, the IMC eliminates nearly all of the militia's forces. The planet Gridiron becomes the official center of the IMC operations in the frontier and home to the first Hammond Robotics Titan factory. The planet Demeter, a waypoint between the core systems and the frontier, acts as a crucial fueling station, colloquially referred to as the Gateway, for IMC reinforcements to make the final jump to Gridiron. Then, the 2700s, the Frontier War. 15 years after the Titan Wars, the last militia fleet discovers a colony under siege by the IMC Hunter garrisons. The colony is led by former IMC pilot James McCallan, who has vanished into untouched Yuma system after staging a mutiny 15 years prior. In exchange for help in evacuating the colonists, McCallan offers to provide the militia with support and intelligence to destroy the IMC's critical refueling station at Demeter. At the Battle of Demeter, McCallan outmaneuvers his former commanding officer, IMC Vice Admiral Graves, and sacrifices his own life to destroy the Gateway. Moved by his friend's dedication, Graves defects from the IMC and takes over McCallan's role, leading the militia to victory. With the destruction of the Demeter installation, IMC forces are cut off from reinforcements in the core systems. The militia regains its footing and reclaims a significant portion of the frontier space, establishing the Planet Harmony as militia's central command. There, the militia launches the Vanguard Initiative, an effort to produce frontier-made Titans as weapons to defeat the IMC. Now, the Frontier War, what I just read, is known as the current Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2 games. Then this dialogue is going back to the interview transcript between AJ and Pathfinder. Wow, a lot happened in 700 years. You don't say. It's always measured by wars, though. After the militia took power, there was a final battle at the last IMC-controlled planet, Gridiron. And what happened next? Well, ain't no one really knows. It's a mystery? I have a lot of those. I'm sure someone knows, but they ain't talking out loud. Anita's probably the closest. I'm sure she can fill you in, but all I really learned was that a blackout cut off all communications through the frontier. That was over a decade or so ago. No one really knows what happened, how the battle at Gridiron ended, except for maybe Anita. Even she was deeply affected by it. All we know is that one day everything stopped. All the beacons that the IMC built throughout the frontier went down. Just like that, one big blackout. Those who supported the militia were promised refuge, but no one came. The militia abandoned those people. They were no better than the IMC. Those poor people in the frontier were toyed with by both sides. That's why it's hard to say who's actually good, you know? Plenty of people cared for the militia, but plenty didn't. Plenty didn't care much for the IMC either. It's hard to trust anyone who promises you everything. The IMC promised them safety and security, and then took all they had left. The militia promised them safety and security, and then depleted all they had and disappeared. You can only promise what you can promise. There are limits, which is something the Frontier Corps taught me. You see, they stepped in when both sides were gone. They helped with the Great Migration and those left stranded in the frontier and brought them right here to the Outlands. Now, I'm not an expert in the Outlands. You can probably get more out of Gibby, Natalie, or your best friend Wit. Now, I'm going to end this episode. I'm going to continue it into a third episode, maybe even a fourth, but we're nearing to the end. So, hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm enjoying it a little bit, but I'll see you guys in the next episode.